Hello and welcome to the 313 Connect Pistons podcast on the Leggy Sports YouTube channel. I'm joined by the guys again. We have a chock full episode for you guys today. What's going on, guys?
Leggy, what's up, brother?
Heck
Good
yeah.
to see you. Excited to talk some basketball. And you know what? A little extra enthusiasm on my side because this is our first ever punishment episode of the 313 Connect. So
Yes.
that adds a little bit of ceremony to it. So
Yeah, Brennan, can you talk about what you have to do today? Do you even really know?
Man, I got a segment later and I got to eat all of these warheads in that segment. Thanks to James Harden and Kawhi Leonard and Ty Lue and Nicholas Batum. Thanks to the Clippers. Yeah, I got a warhead punishment. So
Yeah,
thanks, LA.
it was either you or me. Sean was in the clear. It was either if Denver wins, well, which they did, you would have to do it. If the Clippers won, I would. And thank God it was a blowout early because I was going to just say, I'm just going to go buy the Warheads now. If I would have lost then, I would have done it because I would have forgot. So cheers to you because honestly, I would have just said, oh, damn it, I forgot. I forgot them. So cheers to you, Brennan.
Oh, geez, the tariffs. They made warheads too expensive. I just can't. No, for those who don't know, this stems from our first round predictions. And a lot of the reason why Leggy and Brennan were in this position in the first place was because they made the mistake of betting on the Milwaukee Bucks to beat the Indiana Pacers. And boys, now that I think we have some time and some retrospect to look back at that first round, can you both admit how wrong you were, please? Just for me.
The Bucks series, that made sense. I will give you props for the Minnesota take though. Minnesota take, how you told me,
that was the
particularly that they will take advantage of the Lakers being extremely small. I was kind of hesitant. I'm like, can Rudy Gobert do it? And on offense, he really didn't do it until game 5. But you were absolutely right. Nas Reed dominated. Vinny McDaniels lived in the paint. Anthony Edwards, he heated up sometimes. But you were right about the Lakers being so small. I'll give you props for that. But
and
Milwaukee,
Jackson Hayes, that was the other thing that was just maddening. It's like it's like when you only have one center on your roster and you won't even play them 10 minutes a game. Like, what's the game plan here when they have like some of the best centers in the league?
Yeah, that was a mess. And Jade McDaniels, he's kind of breaking out a little bit every single playoff. So I'm excited to see his rise, especially when you're talking about a defensive guy who's kind of learning the offensive traits. Anyone want to talk about Kawhi Leonard? And it's not going to be to that extent. I'm not trying to compare that at all. But when you're talking about a defensive menace that is slowly adding offense, that's a really, really likable thing.
I mean, if you're the Timberwolves and you said, hey, Jaden McDaniels going to end up being 80% of Kawhi Leonard, but ends up playing a lot more than Kawhi Leonard did, I think you sign up for that every single day of the week and twice on Sundays.
Yeah. And I think
100%.
And 80%, that might be high. Like, just imagine 80% of Kawhi, who some people say is like one of the best players of all time if he didn't get hurt. So I just had to roast you there a little, Sean.
Yeah, nope, that's okay. You can roast me all you want. You were closer to the punishment, so you'll have more warhead taste in your mouth than me. So I'm good.
Well, I'm scared once we get to the round 2 predictions. That's going to be later in the episode. But right off the top, guys, there was a really big debate on Twitter talking about who's the biggest star of Detroit. There's Kate Cunningham. There's Tariq Skubal. There's all these different names. There's Jared Goff, of course. I mean, Red Wings, does anyone want to give a name from that hat?
It would really just be Stevie Y. You know, like I think he's the biggest name still. I mean, you have some other guys in there. Dylan Larkin probably would be the most prominent of the Red Wings players, but I think not to give away my answer, but I think it's kind of along those lines of, in my opinion, I think Dan Campbell's the biggest star of the city right now. I think Cade Cunningham, of all the players, is probably the face of the athletes of Detroit. But if you're the national audience and you're like, all right, Detroit sports, who's the first person you think of? The freaking boisterous, kneecap biting, hell raising, like most unique coach perhaps we've ever seen in the history of professional sports, especially of the ones who are as great as Dan Campbell is. So I think Cade Cunningham will be that very soon, but especially as the Lions are kind of in the peak of their, of their surgence, I think it's Dan Campbell at the moment.
Yeah, Brennan?
I agree wholeheartedly with all of that. I kind of just wanted to touch on Jerry Goff.
Yeah.
I'm not really that big. I'm not that big into hockey, so I can't really speak for the Red Wings. I do like scuba a lot. Tigers have been the best team in the AL. That is so
Yes.
crazy. I'm loving it.
Yeah, they've added.
Kind of
Sorry to interrupt real quick, but they've added the
yeah.
bats to what was already great pitching, and it seems like the past 20 years. My dad's a huge Tigers fan, been to 30 plus opening days in a row. Anyways, it seems like they've only had one at a time. When they had really good bats, the relief pitching was awful. When they had good relief pitching last year, they had a good starter, but then they had no bats. So it seems like it's all starting to come together, and that's how you develop into a World Series contender, is you just start building like this slowly, and young guys getting better. But sorry to interrupt you there, Brennan.
I love it. I love the lore. I'm loving what I'm seeing from the Tigers. I've been to one game so far this year. I want to see Scooble pitch, so I'm
Yeah.
excited to do that before the year is over. But just speaking on Jared Goff, man, because my timeline on Facebook and Twitter had Jared Goff as the overwhelming favorite, as the face. And I get it, they have the Jared Goff chance and all of that stuff, and I get that football is more popular of a sport than basketball or baseball or anything. I just don't think Jared Goff is an elite enough player to hold that title.
I also think
May-
this city would turn on Jared Goff in an instant if they gave him the reason to. Like, it is not
He
a
kind of
coincidence to
did.
me. Yeah, they did. They kind of already did. Like after the Commanders loss, like a lot of people's insecurities with Goff and all those different things kind of boiled over. And I mean, part of it was the Pistons were playing a lot better as the season went on, but like once the Lions were eliminated, Jared Goff chants were over.
Well, I think a lot of that was due to Ben Johnson, though, because everyone was kind of putting it on the play calling from him, then going to the Bears and being 1 foot out the door, people were saying. And I hate to say it, but I'm kind of a pseudo Caleb Williams fan from playing Dynasty football, so I'm happy to see that. But when Ben Johnson left, that is really what kind of took the heat away from Jared Goff. But you're right, Brennan, with that Jared Goff take, because he's the one that everyone's chanting in every arena all the time, no matter the situation. Once they lost to the Commanders, though, that went away. But once Cade Cunningham, I feel like is a playoff mainstay and is an all-star year after year, it's going to be an obvious answer. The obvious answer is Cade.
Yeah,
And I just feel like with Goff, and I get like quarterback is the position they get all the credit and all the blame. But Jared Goff is probably the fifth best player on the team.
yeah,
Like,
that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like,
that's tough. Can you be the face when you're not even the best player on the offense?
I mean, you
Not
could make the
close.
argument he's not even the face of the offense. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown is someone that's really popular and prominent.
Gibbs.
I think you're gonna.
Gibbs.
I was
Gibbs
just
is
about
the
to say.
guy.
I think Jahmyr Gibbs is about to be near Saquon levels as far as what he's about to do. So I think there's a
100%.
very legitimate chance that he's like not only one of the faces of the Lions, but one of the faces of the league, period. Because that's someone that is insanely marketable when you talk about that. But I think you're right, Leggy. Like, I think it's inevitably going to be Cade at the end of the day, because for one, NBA stars are just a lot more front facing. The fact that they don't have to wear a helmet of any kind, that they're right out front and center, helps a ton. But on top of that, they're just way more marketable as far as branding, as far as, like shoe deals, all those different things. Like even you listen to music, people don't say I'm gonna throw like Garoppolo, they talk about being a basketball player, being a
Drake
hooper,
already
right?
mentioned Cade.
Yeah, exactly. Which we don't have to get into all that because that's something I'd rather forget about.
Yep,
But
let's move on.
but in all seriousness, like, it just, when you look at a guy that's as good as Cade, as marketable as Cade, and just how marketable NBA stars are compared to other athletes in sports, I just think there's a legit chance that Cade's got a freaking rocket ship strapped to his legs and he just goes off to a whole different stratosphere, because he has the NBA and he has Nike behind him. So,
well, can I throw a wrench in all of this? It feels like Detroit is one of those cities. And Sean, you talked about this on your podcast. It was with who was? I was just listening to this today. No, it was today. I listened to it today. It premiered today.
With Big Drew.
Yep, with Big Drew. That was a really good episode, by the way. So if anyone's watching and right now or post, make sure you go check that out. But it was a really good episode.
Yeah, I had two of my mentors in the content creation or the sports reporting space, like Johnny Kane was on the pod earlier this week. That was an incredible one. Just, obviously his work with the Pistons broadcast, and then Big Drew, who used to host a show in the Grand Rapids area called Big Drew and Jim Costa, who's now with 97.1. So that was an absolutely great episode if you haven't gotten to listen to it yet. But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's no problem.
You brought that up, and that got me excited because it was just a really good week of content.
I'm glad you talked as long as you did because I had to remember what I was going to say. But
well, that works out.
Yeah, it works perfectly. Anyways, what I was going to say was you guys talked about how when most stars are or rookies come into the NBA and they're highly touted, the thing that makes the crowd cheer is hitting a shot, getting a dunk. With Cade, it was him getting on the ground fighting for a loose ball. And if you're Detroit, how iconic are players like Penei Sewell? How iconic are players like Isaiah Stewart, Sam Laporta, the big bodies that do a lot of blocking, do a lot of defense, do a lot of the little things? I'm going to say Asar Thompson. Exactly. Like if you're talking about Asar, a guy who could be an all-defensive team mainstay when he has a full season, he could be year after year all-defensive team. And I think that could be enough for Detroit to crown him the guy of Detroit. And Cade, I think, will still always be the guy. But when you're talking about who kind of embodies what Detroit basketball is, if Asar's playing at his highest level, I think he kind of takes that.
I don't want to monopolize this, Brennan. I'm sorry. I just wanted to give context real quick. So part of that point was we were talking about the first time Cade had LCA get on their feet in his first game. Like in most cities, when a first round pick gets or a number one overall pick gets like the crowd hype, it's over like a step back three or a dunk or this like exciting offensive highlight. But the first time LCA stood on their feet because of a Cade Cunningham play, it was because of loose ball. It was because of a loose ball that he dove for in the first quarter. Like that was the moment that Detroit embraced Cade for the first time. So to your point, Leggy, I think it's a really like gritty city. I almost wonder, and Brennan, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this. And I'm not saying that this is someone who ended up being a better player, but I almost wonder with his moxie and with his energy and the way that he just embodies a lot of the Detroit teams of old. I almost wonder if Ron Holland is someone who could be a sneaky candidate to be a face of this team and one of the faces of Detroit sports if he lives up to his potential, because we've already seen he's an absolute freaking dog, and he was already beloved by the entire fan base before the preseason was even over.
Yeah. Yeah, the offense there.
For sure. He Ron definitely got a chance, like you said, if he lives up to his potential, because scoring wise, I feel like that is gonna determine how good and how much hype he's really gonna get. Like I don't think you can be a scrappy role player being the fifth pick and be the face, even though he does embody what Detroit lives for with the blue collar mentality. But if he can become like a 20-point scorer off of slashing and making the occasional jump shot, I do think that he has a shot to be a fan favorite, because that motor, the way he just guards people full court and he fouls you and he's mad at himself because he's just so aggressive. That type of mentality is what Detroit is all about. So Ron Holland has a chance to be a super beloved player.
And I do think too, like whenever the Pistons are at their best, at least there's always more than one face. There's always more than one person that embodies it. Like the going to work team, I think Ben and Chauncey were probably the two big faces of it, but like how iconic is Rip Hamilton? How iconic is Rasheed Wallace? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tayshaun Prince doesn't get his love, but he has one of the best NBA playoff blocks ever.
Yeah.
Right. So even the bad boys, that was Bill Laimbeer and Isaiah Thomas. And, you could throw in other players like Joe Dumars. You could throw in guys like, like Dennis Rodman in there too. But like, I think if this group is at its best, I think there's going to be more than one face, but it is always going to like inherently, when you talk about like when push comes to shove, it is all going to come back to Cade, in my opinion, because it's like, that's the superstar. That's the guy that's going to sell jerseys. That's like Detroit's next Grant Hill when you talk about like what that means for the Pistons.
Yeah, we're kind of big braining it here, going with some of the alternates, but I mean, that's the point of this. And we're seeing some stars shine in the Knicks Boston series. And does this have anybody kind of thinking what could have been? Brennan, if Detroit was in this matchup versus Boston, do you think they would have the same success that New York is having?
Well, I think it's a little tougher for Detroit because I feel like the Knicks are really stifling Tatum with OG and Mikal Bridges. Now we have a SAR, but I don't think we have the wing tandem that kind of bother Tatum as much as the Knicks do. But Boston is kind of giving the games away. Now I want to give the Knicks their credit. They are capitalizing on Boston, shooting threes and missing in the clutch and just taking the ball off transition and getting a lot of mismatches. But Boston is giving the games away. So, and Detroit showed that Detroit was never they never quit in these playoffs. Anytime they would get down by like 10 or 11, they still made it a game every game against the Knicks. So maybe if Boston was still puke on themselves like they have been, Detroit could stay in the game and K could try to help close it out. But I do think that the tandem of OG and Mikal Bridges have been super valuable throughout these playoffs as a whole. And we have a SAR, but who's the other guy that's really going to lock in on the perimeter? So
Yeah.
that's kind of why I think the Knicks have the upper hand against Detroit in that situation.
And what's helping the Knicks right now is Mikal is not alone. Like you said, they have an OG as well. When they're down trapping Tatum, getting the turnover, Mikal has someone else there. That's how he's able to give that pressure. But at the same time, Boston is missing every three-point shot. I listened to something today that, Boston and the Cavs are like the highest volume, highest make three-point team, but they're both shooting below 26%. And it's almost like it's not as much as what New York is doing. It's more on what is Boston not doing. And it's just hitting shots, and that's what's going to happen when you live and die by the three. Kind of like those Houston. We were talking about James Harden a little bit before the podcast. It's kind of like the Houston Rockets days.
Yeah. I think I think two things can be true with this Knicks Celtics series in regards to the Pistons. I think one thing that can be true is there is no chance in actual hell that the Pistons would be doing this exact same thing as the Knicks. I think it's important to acknowledge that, because I think a big reason why the Knicks have been able to do what they've done is because of the fact that they have the clutch player of the year, Jalen Brunson, and they have a veteran poised squad that is able to get into those comebacks. We've seen the Pistons cut deficits in the Knicks series and, throughout the season. It's a different thing to do that in the playoffs. And I think even like you look back at like game 1 against the Knicks when they had that 20-point run, the Pistons were really trying to hit home run balls to get back into that game. I think it's one thing to show the poise to have that come back in the regular season. It's another thing to have that poise in the postseason. And a lot of the players on the Knicks are actually extremely experienced playoff guys. Like 4 of those 5 guys have been a part of like conference finals or championships of some form. Like I think the only one on there is like Josh Hart, but even then, he's just a playoff hooper too. I think the other thing though that can be true is that you got to be pretty excited if you're a Pistons fan and if you're a Pistons executive, because this team that's up 2-0 and could go to the conference finals and has the defending champs literally questioning everything. Not only did the Pistons make their lives a living hell, but if you've listened to the Knicks talk about it, one thing Cam Payne said to a reporter in the locker room after game 1 of Celtics and Knicks, he said, "Man, thank God for that Pistons series, because the Knicks credit the Pistons to waking up a different side of them, to making them a different team, like that physicality and that, that intensity that the Pistons brought. The Knicks fully believe that series made them and tested them and made them a better team. And the Knicks are saying that about a young Pistons team that were without 2 of their best players. Yeah. And so when we go into this, Dungeons and Pistons game and all this stuff, and we start talking about the offseason, if you're Trajan Langdon, if you're JB Bickerstaff and you see just how much success this team has had, how much risky moves or questionable decisions have set this franchise back for years, why would you not want to give this team some leeway to see what they can do if guys are healthier, with more continuity, with an offseason to develop? We just brought up how the Tigers are the best team in the American League right now. Did any of us think that they were going to do that if they didn't go out and get Alex Bregman this offseason?
Yeah, like legitimately. Javi Baez still starting?
Yeah, exactly. Did anyone think that Spencer Torkelson was going to be the catalyst to one of the best offenses in baseball. No.
They have three
But
players.
that team was given the runway to develop and to given the chance. And listen, I was one of the people that was calling the Tigers morons. So I will gladly say I was wrong about that. But if you're the Pistons, learn from the teams throughout the league. Learn from history. Like, what's the point of breaking something that isn't even near broken?
Yeah. Yeah, wait until some cracks start to show. Because this year, you can say there were things that didn't work, but was there anything truly catastrophic? I wouldn't say so. So go into next year, and if something starts to trend that way, then make a move. Then say, okay, then we can start to think about how we can patch this, but there's nothing to patch yet.
Trajan said in exit interviews that he had multiple guys tell him this was their favorite year of their career.
Think about the ages on some of these guys too, especially the veterans.
Think about how the best team in the league has built themselves. OKC has been patient. They could have mortgaged their future a long time ago, but now they are beating the Nuggets by 1,000 points in the playoff series. So it's like, just let it. I mean, I understand the logic of sometimes you want to get a star next to somebody. We don't have a Chet Holmgren or a Jalen Williams right now, but let's find out if we have one first before we just move everybody.
Yeah.
Especially if the best one that everyone's linking to your team, and I'm not trying to drag this person's name in the mud, but if Zion Williamson is your best option, for the love of all that is good, wait for a better option.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've seen a couple names, but yeah, you're right. Zion is probably the top of that. The one that fans have kind of put the square peg into the round hole is Giannis. Everyone wants Giannis, and everybody's mentioning it. Is that realistic? No. I haven't seen the Detroit Pistons on any of the betting odds for any of these star players this year. Zach LaVine, maybe a little bit just because of the holdover from the last regime. Ingram was not there. Zion was not there, and Trajan was there. He was in New Orleans with those guys. So it's one of those things where I'm just curious to see who that first big name will be. Sabonis, actually, Brennan, remember one of the first episodes we did together a couple months ago, we talked about Sabonis. And that's an interesting fit, kind of shoring up what kind of the half-court offense needs, but it takes away so much else. Sean, I see you shaking your head here.
I think Domantas Sabonis is one of the most overrated players in the history of the game. And I don't want to take anything away from his offensive ability, from his playmaking. There's a lot of aspects of Domantas Sabonis where he is a legitimately good basketball player. But we have seen time and 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 time again that this guy is not a playoff performer. And also, he's not a very good defensive player at all. So if you were to go out and get him, you would have to probably play him alongside of Jalen Duren. You'd have to rely on him being a floor spacer, which he's also just shown to not be either. So in my opinion, I think you would find out what the Kings found out, which is when Domantas Sabonis is one of your best players, your ceiling is inherently limited. And so I think Domantas Sabonis is one of those guys that we'll look at as like an all-star caliber player that, you know, was one of the more consistent players we had night in, night out, especially in the regular season. But I think there's a reason why we haven't seen Domantas Sabonis have that signature Domas playoff game. Well, and I think there's a reason why the Kings are closer to rebuilding and the Pacers are closer to a conference finals after the trade they made for Halliburton and Sabonis.
Yeah, Brennan, I want to hear your point on this. I just want to say, though, with Sabonis is we've only seen him in his career be with OKC as a deep role player to being the guy in Indiana, to being the guy in Sacramento. I'm really curious to see what he could do as the second or third guy. The thing is, though, he is not paid necessarily to be in that role. But if you can get him there, because you have some young guys, and I know extensions are going to start kicking in, but if you have Cade and then Ivy or Asar or Duren, and then you put Sabonis as your three, is that something he'd want to do? Probably not, but it makes
Sabonis
more sense.
Was he not already your second or third guy in Sacramento? Like, did they not have De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk?
That's a tough one, though. I'd consider them all in the same sort of echelon. Like Cade, I feel like is up there. Brennan, what do you got?
I was gonna say, at least with the Kings point, he probably was a third scoring option, but touches, I wouldn't be surprised if he was first or second in touches on that team. Totally agree in terms of a playoff player. I kind of said it at that point. The half court offense will be a little better, and he already does a dribble handoff game that JB loves to run. But in terms of defense, that's limits your ceiling as a team. If you have to play him at the four, that means he's supposed to be a floor spacer. Teams will not respect his shot, even though he shot 40% this year. He shot like 2 attempts a game. That's not enough to garner the respect of the defense to actually close out. So the spacing would be nasty. And if he's your five, the rim protection is out the window. Like when he's trapping the pick and roll or coming to the level, he's okay. But as an offense in the playoffs, I would still feel very comfortable attacking a Sabonis-led defense. So it depends on how much you got to give up, how much he's paid. If he's paid $55 million a year, I don't really like the sound of that. So he wouldn't be the first star that's on my board. With that contract, I really wouldn't be that intrigued with the Pistons not already having a floor spacer. If Isaiah Stewart was a 38% shooter and he could play 35 minutes a game with that defense still, it might be different. But that is not who Stu is at this point. Probably that's not who he. I want who he will be basically. So I'm not too intrigued in Sabonis, to be honest.
Yeah, I feel like if you get him, you have to make adjustments and you have to change a lot, which takes away the identity of the team and it takes away the kind of the culture that has been built. But if you can get Cade and Sabonis surrounded by players that would fit the system, that is an elite offense. And if you can still figure a way to put in an Asar Thompson and Ron Holland off the bench, I think that could be a really intriguing lineup. But that's something we can talk about more. I mean, this is the offseason. We got a lot of time to talk about potential fits, and there's going to be a lot of rumors because when you see a team rising like this, there's going to be a lot of decisions to be made. And we're going to be moving on to our mock offseason. And this is going to be fun, guys. I've played Dungeons & Dragons. Sean mentions he's played it once. Brennan, have you had any experience with it?
Today is my first time. Let's do it.
This is going to be the most watered-down, insane run we've ever done here. Insane thing we've ever done. Well, maybe Anthony talking about the Pope dying is the most insane, but I digress. Or Sean calling us Sarmer. So those are my two favorite moments on the show. Anyways, one thing I wanted to mention with you guys, I want to do a little intro for this show, but have it be a serious take we make. So like look for a clip of you saying something serious and then instantly something batshit. Just like, so so it's like, oh, they're smart. Oh no. Like Brennan, I want to see those warheads. I'm excited for that segment. Anyways, you guys have to decide amongst yourselves which one of you will be JB Bickerstaff and which one of you will be Trajan Langdon.
Brennan, is there one that tickles your fancy?
I think I want to be JB.
Perfect. I want to be Trajan, so this works out great.
That is exactly how I saw this happening. So what's going to happen is, no, I'm being serious. I was talking to my wife about this. I was like, Sean's definitely going to be Trajan and Brennan's definitely going to want to be JB. So, okay, keep track of kind of the results of what happens. We're going to go back and forth here. And you guys are going to kind of lead this. You guys are driving the story. We're going to start with JB. So, JB, you have to come up with a training regimen for some of these players, and you have to talk about what kind of skills you want them to learn this offseason. And we're going to roll a D12, a 12-sided dice, and I'm going to tell you what you have to get for that to happen. And if it doesn't happen, the lower it is and farther away from the number you need, something bad might happen. So, Brennan, what do you want to do this offseason for which player? Let's start with a single player.
Okay, single player. That's what I was going to ask you. So I definitely it's a lot of ways we can go. We need a lot of shooting from our dynamic wings. But I want to go with Jalen Duren, his mid-range short roll game, just like the middle of the floor. I want to go with that. If Jalen Duren had like a floater or a consistent mid-range shot or consistently made the right play from the middle of the floor, the pick and roll with Cade would be so much more dynamic. And it's already great, but the Knicks did kind of take it away. So if I want to work on Jalen Duren's decision making. So it's a lot of film. It's a lot of just going out there and a lot of playing 5-on-5 this summer to get that feel for the game. So a lot of high screens, getting the ball in the middle of the floor, and making decisions. So I want to work on Jalen Duren's decision making in the middle of the floor. What do I got to get?
Okay, Sean, what do you think would be a good odds on this? I'm going to ask you guys some of this. Like, I feel like that's a decently good example. I would say a good 7, 8. Right?
I mean 7 and 8, that's on a 12-sided die. To roll. That's pretty high. I'd say like a 5 or 6.
5.
I'd say that's pretty reasonably achievable. Like I think if he was coming in saying, I want Jalen Duren to become a 3-point shooter, that'd be like an 8 or a 9.
You're right.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's like we're rolling for initiative here.
Yeah.
Whereas I think he's already shown flashes of being able to play to play farther from the basket. I think this is attainable. So I think a 5. I think a 5 is pretty fair.
Let's do a 5. Let's see what we get here. A 12.
Whoa!
So that is a critical success, which means, I guess we usually do D20, so I don't know what I'm doing here with a 12. Let's just say 12 is the best you could do.
12 out of 12, that's a critical success.
That's critical success nonetheless. So Jalen Duren is going into next year as an elite mid-range shooter. Consider him one of the best mid-range shooting bigs in the league, where you consider Jokic, where you consider Embiid. He's there. So JB, applause there.
Elite, man.
And we're going to package this all together and grade this, because we can do this a few times too with different things. Trajan Langdon, you walk into your office and you pick up the phone. What's the first thing you're doing?
The first thing I am doing is calling Malachi Beasley. No, I'm calling Malik Beasley, and I'm saying, hey, man, thank you so much for everything you did for us this season. You had an incredible run, one of not only the best shooting season in Pistons history, one of the greatest shooting seasons in league history. I want to reward you for that. I also want to do it in a way that allows us to be competitive. So, Malik, I'm going to offer you the mid-level exception to come back for 3 years, to run it back in Detroit, to build a future here, to play alongside Cade Cunningham, and to bring a championship to the Motor City.
Okay, so Trajan seems like a pretty straight shooter. So what we're going to roll for first is, because Malik probably has a couple offers that are going to be higher than that from teams that desperately need shooting. We're going to see if he, at first, just goes with it. So let's give that. I'm going to go with a 7 here, because
That's what I was thinking. That's reasonable.
I was thinking 7 or 8, just because I feel like if there's a big offer out there that he can't refuse, that might be tough. So let's see how Trajan fares here. A 7.
Yes, got my shooter.
So the shooter is going to take that mid-level exception, and he's going to stay on the team. Good job, Trajan. So JB and Trajan, good job there. Okay, JB, what's going on next in your training regiment?
Oh, we still training?
Or whatever you, coach, you get to do what you want. Sorry.
Cool. Asar Thompson. We are working on that jump shot, okay? Because if you can shoot the ball at even a 33% clip, you're a way different player from deep. You are already one of the best defenders in the NBA. You already showed that you are an elite dunker spot player. If you can make teams pay from the corner, you become a way different player. And now he finally has an off season where he can actually work out. And he couldn't work out the whole off season last year. So now Asar will be working on that jump shot from the corner, from the top of the key, catch and shoot. I don't need a lot of dribbling. I need you to get it and go. Get it and put it up. So Asar Thompson will be working with Freddie, and that jump shot is going to be at a 33% clip next year, and the free throws won't be so scary, basically.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times he went to the line during the playoffs. I'm like, man, those clanks are loud. So we getting that jump shot together.
Okay, so this is how we're going to roll this one. I'm going to put it at a 10. You have to get a 10, 11, or 12. The kicker, though, is you get a +1 to whatever your roll is, because you have Fred Vincent. Because you have one of the best shot doctors in the NBA. He's going to be able to help out and give you that bonus there. So let's see.
Modifiers. I respect it. Damn,
gets an 8.
You went all out for this.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just using some common D&D knowledge, baby. So Asar, sadly, is not going to get the jumper. Fred Vincent was not able to figure out what was going on, and Asar's going into next year a little bit gun shy. So he's going to do what he did a lot of this year. If he gets open pass outs, he's going to drive. He's going to kick. He's not going to take those open shots. So that's something you have to think about, Trajan, now up with you, because now you know that your starting 3 is not going to shoot.
Expected more from my coaching staff this summer. No. It's okay, JB. That's okay. This is a long-term project. Long-term.
Yep.
My next priority here is to lock up our backup point guard. I think we saw whenever this team was playing well, if we want to elevate into next season, it's to have another guard outside of Caden Ivey who can handle the ball, which don't worry, we'll be getting to our extensions here in a little bit. But my next decision here is I think Dennis Schroeder was a tremendous addition to this team. I called Dennis and say, hey man, I know you really enjoyed this year. We really enjoyed this year too. We really enjoyed having you. I know that your current salary going into this summer, you made about $13 million this year. So he's 31. I'd say, Dennis, let's go. Let's line that up with Malik Beasley. Well, let's go 3 years, $36 million. Come back to the squad, $12 million a year. Come back to Detroit. Get yourself a home. You've said yourself you love the environment and the vibes of this locker room. And quite frankly, if you play well here, we wouldn't really have much of a need to trade you unless some crazy thing down the road comes down. So, yeah, Dennis, let's get you a home here in Detroit.
We're going to break this one down a little bit. The first thing Schroeder is going to think about is, like Malik Beasley, there's other deals on the table. Do I want to really take a hometown discount? So before you get into negotiating, he's going to decide, does he want that hometown discount just because he's only been here since the deadline? Although he loves the team, he loves money because he turned down a huge bag in the past. So that's something that's going to negatively affect you. He wants to make up that money he lost from the Lakers, right?
It was
the
Lakers.
He turned down. So you are going to get
Lakers $80 million.
Yeah. So what's going to happen here, Sean, is it's going to be a 9. That's going to be seeing if he gets discount. It's going to be a little tough here. Let's see what he does. And he gets it. He takes the hometown discount. I was hoping for a little saga here where you had to go with the money. So you locked up now 2 essential pieces to this backcourt. And when you're talking about on the cheap.
Oh, and quite frankly, I think those are fairly reasonable values for Malik and for Dennis. I think the thrown around number, projected number for Malik has kind of been the non-tax, like the non-exception mid-level. And then for Dennis, I'm just really looking at his salary and his age and kind of combining those two factors. In my opinion, if I'm thinking of like what are going to be the most desperate markets for a guy like a Dennis Schroeder, or what could be like a potential destination, to me, I look at Dallas, who is going to be without Kawhi Leonard. Not Kawhi, Kyrie Irving. They're going to desperately need an initiator and a ball handler and someone who can play pick and roll with Anthony Davis while Kyrie's coming back. I could see them being very desperate. I could see the Wizards, if they go get Cooper Flagg, wanting to put a legitimate point guard alongside him. I could say that for pretty much any team that could land Cooper Flagg this summer that doesn't have a point guard. So Dennis Schroeder's a good player, man. I think there's going to be a real market for him. But like, again, I think there's something to be said about Schroeder has been traded so many different times. He's been on so many different teams and so many different places. He's going to be 32 next season. Like, go somewhere you enjoy.
Yep.
And be with a team that you could actually stay with for a while.
And I will say, I don't know if teams will value him in that starter role. I do think he's in a very sweet spot in Detroit, how you can come off the bench for Ivy, or you might start sometimes. Very sweet spot for a team that needs you. So I think this is actually the best place where he can make some money and play real impactful basketball too.
Yeah, and because they're only getting better, he has the potential to get another deal once this one's out. Even though he's going to be older and he's going to be close to being out of the league, if he can show on this improving Pistons team that he can kind of help them grow further and get further and further, there's going to be another team that says, you know what? We're starting to take that turn. Let's get some players that have recently done that. Let's pay them a little extra so they can help us do what the Pistons did.
Well, and if I'm Dennis Schroeder's agent too, quite frankly, if I know that my client is going to be guaranteed to make $12 million at the age of 35, when you never know when your decline could come as a professional athlete, as an NBA player, I sign on those dotted lines almost immediately. Like, I actually think, like, I know Dennis Schroeder's given up money in the past, but like, I don't know if he's going to get a whole lot of money on the open market this season because of the fact that you do have, like, we saw guys like Caleb Martin. He made a bet that he was going to get a bigger deal than what he got in Miami. And he signed for such a low deal in Philly. And then Tyus Jones, he signed, like, he was another guy that was supposed to go out and get like a really good deal last summer. He signed for the mid-level exception with the Phoenix. I mean, not the mid-level. He signed for the veteran minimum with the Phoenix Suns. So there's a lot, like there's a lot of guys where it's like, oh yeah, there's money waiting for them. That's not always true.
Yeah. Get it now.
Yep.
Coach, you're going to get one more. Who do we start with? I think we started with Coach. So we're going to get one more run around, both of you guys. Brennan, what's your final decision?
I am going to go away from player development. Asar kind of burnt me. Ron Holland, I'm betting on his internal growth. So I am going to delegate the responsibility of looking at the iPad before I challenge something to a new coach. In the playoffs, whoever had that responsibility, they sold me time and time again. Because we will be back in the playoffs next year. So next year in the playoffs, I don't know who I'm gonna give that assignment to, but I am switching that responsibility to somebody else. Because if your job is to look at the iPad, the success rate should be way higher than what it was in these playoffs. You should not be missing challenge after challenge after challenge when your only job is to look at the iPad and tell me challenge or no challenge.
Yeah, that was one of the most confusing things, and I'm trying to think of a spin to put on this. So, Brennan, what kind of what coach are you ideally looking at? And you don't have to go specific. What kind of age? What kind of style? What do they look for? So, kind of create this coach.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the Eric Spoelstra archetype. Somebody from the video room, a video coordinator. All you do all day is watch film anyways. You watch more film than probably me as the coach. So you are seeing around the league and you're seeing like, oh no, that call wouldn't get overturned. I watched that game on 3-14, Washington versus Indiana. That call stayed the same. No, don't challenge that. So my video coordinator, my top guy, he's coming to the bench. He's my iPad guy now.
Okay.
Challenge or no challenge.
Yeah, I think that's I would say like a 6. I think that's because he's kind of unproven, but he's also been around it. So a good 50-50. Would you say so, Sean?
By the way, yeah, I'd say so. If JB is looking for another guy that he can lean on, that type of, experienced guy who can grind tape and who can help with development, has been around some guys. He has a nephew who's available as a coaching prospect, Jordan Bickerstaff, worked with the Nuggets.
Yeah. There's a good
come
fit.
in and help.
So Jordan Bickerstaff, this is going to see if you succeed as the next play caller for the challenges. Let's see. So a 2. So
Detroit, the first round series next year, 0-for-6 from the challenges.
Yeah,
Hey, Jordan can do something else. It's all good.
Yep, game 7 versus the Philadelphia 76ers. Joel Embiid goes up and he falls to the ground by himself. He trips over his own leg. And then Jalen Duren gets called for the phantom foul. Joel Embiid shoots 2 free throws, and it's over. They don't even challenge. He just didn't even notice.
The craziest part about that is Joel Embiid's playing.
Boys, this was fun. We'll have to
I don't get workshop.
One more? I'm so sorry, Sean. Go on. Go on, brother.
3-3.
Is Trajan Langdon chopped liver to you?
Trajan, I'm sorry, man. Let's get through this.
All right, yeah, let's get through this. Okay. I know I mentioned I get back to the extensions, but let's be real. If you just offer those guys a number, they're gonna sign it, because otherwise it's restricted free agent.
Yes.
So I think that's kind of boring. So I'm gonna throw a little bit of a twist, and I'm gonna go out in the free agency market. I know cap wise there might be some logistics here that I'm gonna have to work some things out in order to make this all happen. However, I'm going out to the free agency market, and I'm calling a Bobby Portis of the Milwaukee who's currently a part of the Milwaukee Bucks going into free agency. And I would say, you were a part of a team that took a next step, won a title. You've seen from this division just how good a Cade Cunningham can be. You've seen now over the television just how raucous of a crowd Detroit can be. And you're already in the Central Division. This ain't a far move. So I'm offering Bobby Portis a contract as well, and I'm making him an offer that he can't refuse to come to Detroit and be the next starting four alongside my guys. And that's the addition I go and make this summer to really not only bolster our wing depth, get another dog, someone that fits that mentality, someone who can space the floor, and just another guy that I know I can rely on when I need playoff minutes. So I'm going for Bobby Portis.
Okay, so we're going to break this down a little bit more because, okay, what do the Pistons have this free agency in terms of cap? Don't they have 26?
I think they have $28 million in cap space. So,
and if you use,
I mean, that's the tricky thing is they would have to sign Ivy and Duren to some form of extension. That won't kick in until next year though. So that wouldn't affect your cap space in theory.
Schroeder and Beasley.
Yep, Schroeder and Beasley essentially would be where a lot of that would be going. So if they went and got a Portis, they would either have to make some form of sign and trade to help them facilitate cap space, or they would have to they would have to like get him at like a super discount. So I know this is kind of unrealistic.
No, not at all.
But hey, we're playing the game.
We're playing the game
for initiative.
Yeah, we're rolling here. So the thing is, Sean, he talks to you and he says, "Oh, let's figure this out first." He's gonna think about coming to you and saying he wants a bigger number, so you will have to do a sign and trade. You will have to get rid of a salary, and that salary is most likely Tobias. I'm gonna say because he's leaving the Bucks and they're already on the downturn, he's not against leaving. When you're talking about a place he could go and be an instant fan favorite for a crowd that loves their fan favorites, I think that's a pretty good bet for Detroit, especially when they're okay with a sign, or I guess I wouldn't say giving a discount, but let's say if it's a 6 or higher, he will. Sorry, go on.
No, my idea is completely wrong. Go ahead. I was going to say, oh, well, Milwaukee could also dump some salary, but I'm like, wait, you dumbass. The Pistons would have to be dumping salary here. So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. 6 to 12, he ends up signing for under what the sign and trade is, and lower than that, you need to figure out sign and trade. Let's figure this out.
Yep.
2. So he wants a lot of money. So now you probably have to trade Tobias to sign him. Are you doing that?
If I have to trade Tobias to sign him, I'm going to be a lot more hesitant. You know what? I'm going to say, Bobby, go see out the market. And if anything happens, you can come back.
Perfect. So that is our mock offseason.
Thank you.
Well, and here's the real talk too.
As a coach, I would have been upset if you would have traded my vet for a shot chucking 35-year-old.
Well, in real talk, man, with all the people that are throwing the bias in the trade talks this summer, or like putting them on any on any trade machine. First of all, I think they're immediately admitting that they don't exactly understand why this season was as successful as it was. Like, I think they know that it was successful. I don't truly think they know the why. Because if they listen to JB Bickerstaff talk even one time about Tobias Harris, he calls him an extension of the coaching staff. He calls him a safety blanket. He calls him like one of his favorite players he's ever coached, and he's someone that he can always rely upon. And quite frankly, I think the biggest thing is just the culture aspect. Like, you're not going to find many leaders in the league like a Tobias. Like, Bobby Portis could possibly be one of those guys, but I think the biggest difference between those two is Tobias. I think he's a little younger, but also he keeps his cool a lot more than a Bobby Portis does. I know Tobias isn't going to get ejected.
Yeah. If you go with... So go on, Brendan. Sorry.
I was just going to say Tobias is more consistent and more steady as a player, too. Like, even defensively, Tobias gives you a lot more than Bobby Portis.
Yeah, you're giving
For
up...
our culture, we need that.
I was really getting greedy here.
Yeah, you're giving up to... You'd have to give up Tobias to get another player to fill that Tobias role not as good as Tobias could blaze it. So that's where that goes. But guys, that was a successful offseason. You didn't make crazy additions, but Jalen Duren's emergence kind of puts him into that number 2 spot. And then keeping the vets, keeping that consistency, they're only going to go up. And then you can always make decisions. You can fill in those cracks during the trade deadline. You can fill them in 20 games in if something's not working. If there's injuries, you can figure it out because you still have flexibility. Well done, champs. Good job. We're going to be moving on to From Half Court.
What is going on? I want to welcome you from Half Court for today. I am joined, as usual, by my 313 Connect guys. Boys, let's talk about the postseason, everything that is going on. First of all, let's start with the fact that one of the potential dynasties of the NBA, or one of the teams that could have been a dynasty, not only on the brink of elimination this postseason, but could be on the brink of a lot of potential changes going into the summer. The Boston Celtics, they are down 2-0 to the New York Knicks. We talked earlier in this 313 Connect episode about how this impacts the Pistons, but from the Celtics side, Shams Charania, multiple other reporters have stated how the Celtics are going to have the most expensive payroll in the history of sports next season. They are currently set up to have a $500 million payroll. On top of that, they just had a sale of the franchise where their new owner had to put together an ownership group to buy the team for $6 billion. The most expensive NBA franchise sale ever. And I believe the most expensive franchise sale in sports, period. Another thing that makes it really fascinating, by the way, is generally every other time when you're buying a sports franchise, you're buying the team, but you're also getting the arena. Well, the Celtics don't own their arena. They sign a lease to play at their arena. So you literally just got the brand, the Boston Celtics, out of that deal. That is all you got. So they are going to have a very hefty payday coming up. And if this team doesn't win a title, especially if they lose in the second round in this fashion, they could be on the brink of having to break it up. And guys like Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis reportedly are highlighted as two potential trade targets throughout the league this summer. So my question to you guys is how crazy is it that you can literally just over a span of a 7-game series, the entire fate of your franchise can change on a complete whim? And if you are teams like the Pistons, do you look at a guy like a Drew Holiday with any interest, or Kristaps Porzingis? And how many teams throughout the league do you think are going to be clamoring, calling the Boston Celtics, trying to get some of those guys to complete whatever missing pieces they have?
Yeah, I think a lot of teams will be calling about Drew Holiday. He's a perfect, backcourt mate for a lot of players. He can dribble pass, well, not really shoot. He can dribble pass. He can defend, shoot sometimes. So I think he'll be a hot commodity. But it sounds like that Boston was going to break it up, win, lose, or draw. That's kind of the craziest part. Even if they won, it sounds like the trades are still going to go down this summer. So obviously, I didn't expect them to go down 2-0. I picked Boston in 5, but the way they're just giving stuff up, man. So this summer is gonna be crazy. And yeah, Porzingis, he has this illness that we don't know what it is. Still, he got sick in March. It's May. We still don't know what it is.
Yeah.
That's kind of, alarming. But yeah, Holiday is definitely going to be high on a lot of people's board this summer if he's available.
Yeah, for Detroit, I think that they both fit roles that we could definitely utilize. I would say, though, with Schroeder, we kind of have that Drew role, and is it really that much of an upgrade when you're considering the age and the pay?
Defensively, yes.
Yeah.
We need another wing. We need another defensive wing beside Asar.
What's his contract?
Drew, that's a good question. Let me pull it up.
Because is that a thing that will limit you from keeping Malik as well? Is that something that will limit you from making additional? Because I don't know. My point is if you have Schroeder and you have Beasley, and then you can go get a third piece for the money that Drew is, I think that might be where the decisions have to be made.
So, okay, yeah. So Drew Holiday, okay, he makes a little bit more than I thought. So Drew Holiday is currently $30 million a year. Next year he's going to make $32 million. The following year he's going to make $35 million, and he has a player option in 27-28 for $37 million, and he's already 34. So if I'm the Pistons, I maybe don't touch this 10-foot pole, and I look as far away as humanly possible. However, if I'm teams like the Philadelphia 76ers, if I'm teams like the Phoenix Suns, if I'm teams like the Miami Heat, if I'm teams like even like Sacramento, where you're just trying to be competitive or you're trying to be better and you're looking for a jolt in your, jolt in the arm, someone that brings stability and makes you more competitive immediately when he steps into the building. I think Drew Holiday is a perfect type of player. If I'm Orlando, I'm trying okay, Orlando's the perfect Drew Holiday spot. I'm sorry. But also if I'm Boston, I'm trying as hard as hell to put him in the Western Conference, because I think you saw the Milwaukee Bucks. What kind of killed the hopes of Damian Lillard and Giannis was the fact that Drew Holiday got traded to the Celtics.
Yeah.
Right? Like that was the thing that killed that trade from day one.
Yeah, that make the trade look way worse in hindsight. Like a lot of people try to say, why would you trade a champion for an unproven player? But it's more so you traded Dame and he ended up in Milwaukee. I mean, he ended up in
Mm-hmm.
Boston. That's more so where the problem lied. It wasn't that you traded Drew for Dame straight up, because the Bucks did need more scoring because Drew Holiday was the second option. He wasn't giving you what you needed as an offensive scorer. But the fact that he went to Boston, he made Boston unbeatable last year. So that
Yep.
was, yeah.
Yeah, it's no matter what happens to those guys is going to be interesting. The Kristaps Porzingis story, quite frankly, it's just pretty sad because it felt like last year him winning the title, playing as well as he did in the playoffs, felt like we were really starting to see Kristaps Porzingis start to live out the potential of who he could be more. Now with this viral infection that he's been dealing with over the last couple of months, just the general injury issues that have just not gone away. He's only getting older. It just makes like what his potential future could be just look a lot more uncertain. And if you're the Boston Celtics, I think you're going to have a really hard time trading him this summer if he does, still have health issues going into the summer, because who's going to want to trade for someone and give up significant value or take on that type of significant salary cap space in this league, with this hard cap with the aprons, when they don't even know what they're getting 40 games out of the year.
Yeah, that seems like a tough bet to make for any team. And when you're Boston, you don't really have the assets to attach to feasibly get off of it either, if teams are saying you need to give me something extra to take it. It sucks, though, because before this, if he didn't have this illness, this mystery illness that's been going on most of the year, I guess I would say, he seems like a guy that he could get you a pretty penny. At this point, yep. I'm not sure what that is. But there are teams that are out there that have finally figured out that veterans help, like Washington. I don't know if they would want him back, but that's a team where if they do get a Cooper Flag, if they do get a dynamic rookie, they could use a guy like that could stretch the floor, and he doesn't have to play 70, even 65 games, because they're not fighting for championships. They're fighting to build something, and when you're kind of having that the framework of that player and that idea of a Kristaps, I mean, it kind of gives you a formula there.
I almost wonder, even if you're Charlotte, you just say screw it, and go get him, and like you pair him alongside Mark Williams, and you're like, all right, we got this interesting two big lineup where Mark is more of our rim guy. Kristaps can kind of be a roamer and a stretch guy. You can kind of have different combinations. I think it's got to be a team like that where you really need some traction, and you can kind of take on more of that risk.
Yep.
So,
sorry, I was just going to say, if Detroit didn't have the year they had this year and they were still kind of in that play-in picture fighting for the plan,
exactly.
It's more feasible, because then you could get off the Tobias contract, because that's a guy that would fit really well in Boston, I will say.
Yep. But it could also become Josh Smith too, Electric Boogaloo, very quickly.
Yeah, that's interesting. The one I would like to see is Jaylen Brown. That would be a fun name to see in Detroit. The money, though, is a lot, and you'd be locked into him and Cade and probably Duren for a long, long time. And I feel like we're kind of in the NBA where we see what happens when you have these guys with massive contracts. You can't build around them. Like, look at what's happening with Denver right now even. They're struggling because they are paying three guys all this money, and then they have to go get a Russell Westbrook, who a lot of people like, but when he's not good, he's not good. I mean, they can't fill it out.
I know it's impossible to say this in a league where Luka got traded. I just have such a hard time seeing Jaylen Brown getting traded by Boston. Like, especially just the impact he's had. I mean, it is the Celtics. If there's any team that's going to not worry about the attachment to their players and do what's best for their franchise. It's them. But like, I think you would have to get an incredible haul back to break up Brown and Tatum when they've been as successful as they have, like record wise. Like, I think you got to keep that together as long as you can if you're the Celtics. Are there any other thoughts you guys have on this before we move on to the draft lottery?
I was gonna say I like how you brought up the Luka trade because logically, I mean, you shouldn't break up the Jays, but the fact that Jaylen Brown is making 40 million
Yes.
now and that contract is going to get bigger, this ownership doesn't seem like they're concerned with winning as much. They want to make money.
Well, I
So,
mean,
it,
I think they're still concerned about winning. I think it's just realistically speaking, when you just paid $6 billion and you have a $500 million payroll team that gets out as early as Boston potentially can be. In this
right,
scenario, if they get out in the second round, I think their decision's made for them. I think if they
yeah,
win a title and they repeat, I think it's a much harder conversation
Oh
because
yeah.
even from a business standpoint, how do you sell to your fan base? Oh, we just broke up the team that won 2 titles in a row.
Yeah, you could get
yeah,
by even in that scenario getting rid of a Drew Holiday. You could sell getting rid of a Chris Stapps. You couldn't sell Jaylen Brown. If you get out in the second round, that's when there can kind of be those little news leaks, those media little leaks about why it's not working and why it won't work anymore and why things have to change. Because I just would like to think about the Boston Celtics when you have Tatum and you know that they're probably getting rid of Jaylen Brown if they were in this scenario. And then if they have to get rid of Drew and Porzingis, they have a really clean cap scenario, so they can really rebuild that team however they really want. Could they actually do it well when they already have something that works? I don't know, but if they're looking for something different and a little cheaper, that would probably be the best way to get there. I mean, this is coming from a Detroit fan who knows nothing about Boston. So
Here's the
yeah. And I think
oh,
they
go ahead. I'm
still
sorry, Brennan.
value winning, but I just feel like with this stuff kind of leaking before the playoffs even started, I don't think it's the first priority.
yeah, it's a cover,
I
it feels
just
like.
because it's like this team should nobody thought they would be down 2-0. So this stuff got leaked when Boston was the prohibitive favorite to win the championship. That they were
Yeah,
thinking about breaking it up.
I think
And Jaylen Brown, I think you get the most for him. I don't see a world where you trade Tatum. And then like we
No.
were talking about with Porzingis, his value is kind of iffy because of the health concerns. And Drew Holiday, like you said, he'll be 39 making 37 million or 39 million dollars. So I don't think you should trade to break up the Jays either. But with the way that this ownership has kind of relayed messages through the media, if like Luka got traded, all bets are off. This Jaylen Brown stuff would not surprise me if he was on the block
yeah.
No.
sooner than later.
I mean,
Last thing I'll say, sorry, Sean, I know you were trying to move a little bit ago, but if one coach got fired to then give another team the sort of cojones to fire their coach right before the end of the season, I'm pretty sure trading Luka can then make another manager say we can go and trade this guy.
yeah. I mean, not to sprinkle in a really hot take right before we get to the next segment, but if I'm just making a trade based off of solely this series and this series alone, I don't know if that's the J I'd be looking to trade in Boston right now.
Ooh.
So moving on to and listen, that's not even me saying I think Jalen's a better player. I like Jason Tatum more, but if you're just talking about this series, I think Jalen's been the better player than Jason
Oh
in this
yeah.
series, and he's the one that won Finals MVP last year.
Real quick, Sean, we got a comment that talked about this a little bit. I think they might target Sabonis to pair with Tatum and White in the offseason. That would definitely really bolster their half-court offense.
I think,
But I know your take on Sabonis, so if you weren't here earlier to hear Sean's little Sabonis rant.
I think that would be a basketball abomination, but I appreciate their input. But
Brennan, I want to hear.
guys-
Oh, sorry.
Oh, go
Okay,
ahead, Brennan.
I'm so sorry, Sean. I've cut you off 20 times today.
I'm just trying to talk about the draft lottery, damn it. We've
we'll
been
get
going
there.
for over an hour.
Okay, Brennan, quick take on that comment.
I'll just say, imagine Sabonis playing Missoula ball. Just imagine that. That's that's kind of funny to imagine.
Yeah.
I don't think it will work.
Yeah, no, I hate burn it with fire.
Hey,
I
Sean,
absolutely
why
hate that
haven't you
take.
gone to the draft lottery segment yet?
Yeah, that's a great question, Leggy. I don't know. But guys, let's talk the draft lottery because it is a massive thing looming. in the next week or so in the NBA world. A lot of teams' fates, a lot of people's jobs hang in the balance on these ping pong balls, and what destiny these teams will ultimately have will be decided by that. And specifically, which team will have the privilege of drafting Cooper Flagg. Most years, I know that the best player in a draft doesn't always end up being the number one overall pick, but this is one of those years where there is very much a consensus on who the best player in the class is. And this year, that player is Cooper Flagg. So I wanted to run through the odds and what teams are in the running to get Cooper Flagg. And I wanted to hear from you guys as to what your favorite Cooper Flagg destinations would be. So we'll go ahead and start at the very top of the lottery. The team with the best odds to get Cooper Flagg, the three teams tied, I should say, because the top odds you can get is 14%, and those are the three worst teams in the league. So the number one team is the Utah Jazz, who could get Cooper Flagg. Obviously, they've been tanking for years. They are in dire need of that superstar to build around. Lauri Markkanen's a great player. He's not a franchise player, and he's not really in the age to really build around long term. Then there's the Washington Wizards, who have been looking for a guy to build around since the Great Wall fell. So there's them. And then there's the Charlotte Hornets, who obviously they have LaMelo Ball. They have Brandon Miller. They've been very close in years. They have never really gotten over the hump and actually won the lottery and really had, that privilege to draft that number one prospect, not at least in a very long time. Then there's our guy, Joe Dumars in the New Orleans Pelicans,
Jesus
a franchise that has a 12.5% chance at the number one overall pick. They obviously won the lottery for Zion and Anthony Davis. They won the Zion lottery right at the end of the Anthony Davis era. So could they win the Cooper Flagg lottery right at the end of the Zion era? That would be interesting. The next up, there's the 76ers at a 10.5% chance. They needed to trust the process like all hell. And honestly, they're just rooting to keep their pick, because if it goes from 7, if it falls to 7, it goes to the Thunder.
Oh,
so
man.
a lot at stake. A lot at
Of course,
stake.
to go to OKC.
It's a 60. So the Sixers have 64% chance to keep their pick. So 36% chance Daryl Morey loses that pick to the Thunder. So some real stakes here if you're the 76ers.
Oh, man.
And then I'll just speed run through the rest.
Yeah.
Then we have the Nets at 9%, the Raptors at 7.5%. The San Antonio Spurs have a 6% chance to pair Cooper Flagg with Victor Wembanyama. Just throwing that out there.
No thank you.
And then I think the last truly frisky team, because this team has a 3.8% chance to get Cooper Flagg, thanks to the Phoenix Suns, is the Houston Rockets. They have a 4% chance to add Cooper Flagg to that team. They have a 17% chance to add another top 4 pick to that young core that they have down in Houston. And then to round it out, you have Portland, who also has a 3.8% chance. You have the Mavericks, who have a 1.8% chance to replace Luka Doncic with Cooper Flagg. You have the Bulls at 1.8% chance. The Hawks at 0.8% chance. And then to close it out, the San Antonio Spurs have a 0.8% chance via the Atlanta Hawks. So,
Can I be a hater?
guys, throwing all those ones out there, there's a lot of different potential destinations. There's the obvious ones. There's the scary ones. I think we all can agree. I heard someone say if the Spurs win this lottery, they should be forced to do a reshuffle because it'd be unfair to get Wemby and Cooper Flagg. That would obviously probably be the most dangerous for the implications of the league. If I'm talking about my favorite destination, though, and I know this might sound a little left field, I would love to see Cooper Flagg be a Portland Trailblazer. That young, frisky, scrappy group getting a young, dynamic guy and Cooper Flagg, throw him alongside Anthony Simons, Shaden Sharp, and some of the other guys they have with the Blazers. I think they immediately become a really intriguing team in the Western Conference for years to come. So to me, that'd be a really fun destination. But I want to hear from you guys. What are some of your favorite destinations for Cooper Flagg to land? And are there any teams that you don't want to see Cooper Flagg land?
Yeah, I want to start with teams I don't want him to go to, and that's specifically Philadelphia. Or, I mean, Houston. Because if they get that pick, the likelihood of him staying there I don't think is too high. Because I think they're going to move it for a bigger impact player. Philly, I could see a scenario where if they get him, they pivot and try to like redo the whole thing and try to get off Embiid and try to do all of that to build around Cooper. But at the same time, like, can you get off of Embiid for what you think he's worth? That's a tough debate there. Where I want him to go, I feel like Brooklyn is a really good spot because I feel like they've been building something slowly that is kind of similar to what Portland's doing with a lot of scrappy dudes. But it's just getting a guy there that can be the guy, because once you have the guy, it's so easy to figure everything else out. When you're Detroit that rebuilt from 2009 all the way to getting Cade, they never had the guy. So whenever you got these players in the draft that they're decent, they weren't good until they went to a team that had the guy so they could show off what they could do. If you get that guy early in your rebuild, you can then start getting these second-round picks that actually show their worth because they're fitting around something. I mean, that's the same kind of thing with me with Washington. We saw them with a lot of their young core and how they kind of fit together, but they're missing that one big piece. So it's really any of those teams that are missing the big piece that just started their rebuild that I'm really intrigued to see him go to. Because, I mean, seeing him go to San Antonio, seeing him go to Charlotte would be kind of tough because they've had a lot of these top guys. But I don't know. That was a lot of rambling there. I want to hear Brennan's take here.
No, that was good stuff.
Yeah. When we first started this, I was thinking just not the Western Conference. Like, just stay out east. Do not make the conference so the already imbalanced conference is more imbalanced. But hearing Portland was kind of intriguing, not gonna lie. Him and Denny Avdia that averaged like 27 a game in the last 13 games of the regular season. Now I know April basketball, a lot of April Fools in there, but honestly, Billups did say Denny Avdia was the best player on that team before the season started. He kind of walked it back, but he said that. And Denny did prove he was the best on that team. So Cooper with Tumani Kamara, maybe Scoop can get better. I mean, can't get worse than his rookie year. He got a little better this year. Maybe he's one of those slow point guards. It takes some time. So Portland will be decent, but my real pick is definitely the Wizards. Super high on that young core. I love Belil. I love Bub Carrington. Jordan Poole. I think he's getting more and more mature each season. I don't think don't think he's a point guard, but he is a new age point guard. You know, he's gonna shoot first, but I don't know. He has a championship experience. He's already got a ring, so he's not in it for just wrong reasons, I guess. He's had seasons as being the guy taking all the shots. So I don't think he'll mind playing with a Cooper Flag in here. You are the franchise player now. I'm still gonna take my shots and try to get you involved, but you are the number one for this team. Alex Sarr, so a lot of defensive potential, and Alex Sarr plus Belil plus Cooper as a defensive trio. That's nasty.
I love the Chris Middleton acquisition for them too. Like seeing them in
Yep.
person once they added Middleton to that crew, there was just a maturity there. Also, Marcus Smart, just bringing guys who are solid veterans who know how to play, who can set a standard and show guys what it's like to be professionals in the league. I think that's a great spot for Cooper to go into because of the prominence of playing in the capital, being able to, reinvigorate a franchise that I really do think does deserve to, to see prominence come to their team once again. And, and when they did bring in like John Wall and Bradley Beal, when they were actually getting some momentum was when John Wall signed the extension and then had the torn Achilles and all those things that just really derailed the franchise from there. So the Wizards endured a lot of pain. I would really love to see them get it. I think one team I would really not want to see get it, and it's not because of their fan base, because I think the fans absolutely deserve it, but the Dallas Mavericks do not deserve to be bailed out by the National Basketball Association with the lottery. You do not get to trade Luka Doncic and then just get the lottery odds, or the lottery gods, I should say, to bestow upon you, Cooper Flagg. right after making that generational type of mistake. I think that is how you get people throughout the league to, like, all the conspiracy theorists would really rise up to the occasion if something like that were to transpire.
Yeah, and all the expectations that would then be on Flag to turn it around to get back to what Luka did, because Luka is one of one. He's going to go down as one of the GOATs. I can say that in 100% confidence, where we've seen number one picks come in that are touted generational, not be so generational. And some guys, it takes 3 or 4 years. We just saw it from Cade. We knew what he was, but the rest of the NBA and the rest of the media were calling him a bust before this season started. So if Cooper Flag goes to that situation, it's not great. What were you saying, Brennan? My bad.
I said 67. Coming into the season, man. 6'7". That will forever be the most nastiest thing they've ever done. I don't pay attention to those rankings because they are clickbait.
Yeah.
But that was just egregious.
Putting him under Contavious Caldwell Pope is rough.
It was directly under him too, right? Like 66, 67? Wasn't it directly under KCP?
It might have been, yeah.
That's my point exactly, because then you're putting
Derek Lively over him, which Lively had a great playoff run before that, but like, come on.
Yeah, you're putting unrealistic expectations.
Shut down. He got shut down in the finals by Tatum.
And also whenever I think it's really fitting that Lively got picked apart when he had to guard Luka Doncic.
Yeah,
you know, I do think that no matter who wins the lottery, obviously this is going to be, you know, a massive story with big implications. I will say, if you're the Houston Rockets, if you go out and you win the lottery this summer, I personally think if the Rockets win the lottery and get the number 1 overall pick, this would depend on how much they really value Cooper Flag. Because granted, you could potentially big picture go and really put something like competitive together now. But if I'm the Rockets and I wanted to go big fish hunting, what better centerpiece trade trade chip to have than somehow getting the number 1 overall pick? And if you're the Phoenix Suns and you traded away what eventually became the number 1 overall pick, I would want a documentary on that within the week.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what's the way you get that back? Like, because people could say you'd save the Suns by giving them a future. If you get rid of Booker, you can get the number 1, you can get some other things, but you gave it away in the first place. So what are you really doing? It's like a lose-lose no matter what happens.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest story to me is what happens if Philly doesn't keep their pick.
Yeah.
Because that would be the most devastating lottery result in a long time. Because that is a team that not only desperately needs a top draft pick, that is a team that desperately needs a draft pick, period.
Yeah.
So if you want to talk about the most dire situations in the league, if the Philadelphia 76ers, after all the injury issues of Joel Embiid, everything that went on this season, which, you know, like even Jared McCain had some injury issues, right? Like Paul George not looking like the guy that they went out and paid 4 years at max dollars. If they don't even get a first round pick, let alone a Cooper Flag or one of these top 5 picks, if they don't get that, anything, they are quintessentially done diddly for the rest of time.
Yeah.
It's time to start looking for a rebuild for Philly. So yeah, hopefully they still get that pick. And like you said earlier, Leggy, could they get the value for Embiid? Probably not. But at this point, so what? I mean, you're right. You probably should have tried to trade him last year, man. He's 30. He had some great years, but I don't think we're getting Embiid ever again. To be honest, sad to say, great talent.
Yeah.
We're not getting MVP Embiid again. So it's sad.
GTA 6 before Embiid conference finals?
I mean, GTA 6 will actually come out. So yes.
Before the conference finals. When does it come out again?
2026.
Next year.
But like,
is it?
But like, that's the thing, is it actually has a release date. Like, we know it will happen. The other is just not going to happen.
It's just the craziest meme to me, because I don't know, man. I'm done talking about it.
I I heard an interesting trade proposal from Bill Simmons. It was, and he was just like, this is just Bill Simmons spitballing. So just take it for what you will. But he said, what if the Lakers called the 76ers, offered them like a really minimal, like one of their picks, and then like just like some, like trading some contracts. What if they're like, hey, we'll bail you out. We'll get you out of Joel Embiid business right now. And we'll give you like some picks. Like we'll give you like a pick or two in some like in like Austin Reeves and like something else.
Austin Reeves got to be in it. I agree. That's what I was thinking.
I was like, because I know it sounds like you're getting pennies on the dollar if you're the Sixers, but I truly don't think at this point you can underrate the value of getting out of that Joel Embiid extension and just getting to rip the Band-Aid and truly start anew. Like that to me would be worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
I wouldn't do it if I'm the Lakers because I wouldn't want to tie that down for too long with Embiid and Luka, and I just don't know how much those guys actually fit well together.
Exactly.
Because of how much Embiid
100%.
Needs the ball. But
100%.
But I thought it was at least an interesting idea.
Yeah, one team I've heard out there. Oh, sorry, Brennan. You can go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, if I'm Philly, I'm definitely doing it. If I'm Philly,
Yeah.
I'm kind of like I said, I don't think we're gonna see MVP and beat again. So that means that he's getting paid $60 million without MVP production. So if I'm Philly, I'm looking for any sucker that I can find, to be honest.
Who's
If I can
that
get Austin
sucker?
Reeves back, but if I can get Austin Reeves back and pair him with Tyrese Maxey, I would definitely do that. If I'm Philly's
Right, but who's that
perspective.
sucker? That's the golden question.
Yeah, it seems like a Hornets thing to do.
Who would you get back?
I don't know, man. I'm just shitting on the Hornets because that's what I can do now because I'm the Pistons and we're better than them.
What's more morbid? What's a more morbid NBA future than Joel Embiid as a Charlotte Hornet? Like, what would be the incentive for him to get in shape to play for the Hornets?
Yeah, I'm looking at all of the teams right now, and you're right. I can't think of anything worse. Not even New Orleans. What were you saying? Did you say Utah?
Yeah,
See,
Utah is this.
That's an interesting one because they actually have a couple. Well, you can say the same about Charlotte. So yes, you're right. That is kind of like right up there.
Yeah, I'm not that high on marketing like everybody else is.
I mean, I'm not saying I like this move, but like the Clippers don't really have a whole lot of options left. If they have whatever trade assets they have remaining to go and get that type, I mean, listen, like I said, I think it's a bad idea, but like it's going to have to be that type of team where if you want to create some form of window out of nothing, that's the type of desperation it would take but again, like I think everyone knows that the Embiid of old is done. I think Embiid knows that the Embiid of old is done. We've even kind of seen him go, like question or go in media, like just like express his frustration of wanting to feel like how he used to and how hard it's been and all those things. But it's like at this point, man, when you get over the age of 30 and you've already had issues with your health and you have that body type and that level of weight and bear that he plays with, like even a Embiid in his prime labored all the time.
Yeah.
So now we're talking about a Joel Embiid going into years like 10, 11. And like, we're just expecting him to hold up for the next 5+ years and even be at like 90 or 80% worth of what he was. And he's going to be making the most money of his career.
Yeah. It's tough.
Like what? To wrap up this conversation, because this definitely isn't about the lottery anymore, but screw it. This is what we do. This is my segment anyway, damn it.
Yeah.
I'm having fun with this.
Hell yeah.
This is how much Joel Embiid is making throughout the rest of his contract. You know what? I want you guys to guess. 2028, 2029, he has a player option. It's the highest number on this contract. his first. So this season, the 2024-25 season, Embiid made $51 million.
72.
I want you to guess what Joel Embiid is set to make in 5 years when he is 35.
Yeah, you
be
said
no,
72,
36.
Leggy.
36.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 74 million a year.
A little lower, but you're not far off. It's $67 million.
That is crazy.
Okay.
I was fully thinking 70s, and that would have blew my mind.
But the fact that we have a player who's not even who probably won't even be 70% Joel Embiid by that time. That is being generous at 35, 36 with his health history.
Oh yeah.
Making almost $70 million, which I'm sorry, guys. I hate to break it to you. He ain't retiring.
No, no, sir.
He is doing everything in his power to play out that contract.
Yeah.
I don't care if he gets a leg amputated. You say that you will scrape yourself throughout the floor on your arms if you have to make that $67 million. This is the last time Joel Embiid will ever make this type of money in his life.
It's gonna look like Joel Anthony on the Pistons. That's all I can think of right now.
Oh
that was a blast from the past. That's the first thing that came to my brain when I think of a 36-year-old Joel Embiid. He's gonna make $67 million playing like Joel Anthony.
Well, on that beautiful note, that's from Half Court for today.
Brennan, we're gonna move over to your section. So you start getting those wrapped. We're moving over to your time.
Oh boy.
Brennan, you are in the middle.
Man. So if you guys missed it, a few weeks ago, we picked the first round and we all did our predictions. I picked a lot right, but I picked the most wrong.
That's a good way to say it.
For a minute.
I picked the Lakers to win. Obviously, they don't have any more games this season. The Clippers. No, I'm gonna save that one.
Why is that?
I picked the Bucks to beat Indiana. I thought that Giannis could have like a 2018 LeBron one. I knew Indiana played great team basketball, but I didn't believe in it enough, and that was wrong of me. But the biggest one was the Clippers losing to the Nuggets. Me and Leggy kind of picked the exact same matchups. It came down to the Clippers versus the Nuggets in that game 7. I'm sitting there watching, and I'm like, well, may as well get my warheads ready. And I got them today. I'm going to eat all of these in this segment. So, for my segment today, I kind of want to just throw out some conversations. We talked about some great Pistons of the past earlier. We talked about the face of Detroit sports earlier in the episode today. I was wondering, what does Cade Cunningham have to do to crack the all-time Pistons starting lineup? And you guys could kind of tell me who's in your Pistons starting 5 right now to start it off.
Hey, Brennan, can you actually? I don't think we understand the question. Can you tell us again? And Sean, can you hear me?
Hey,
I can hear you. I can hear you loud and clear. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
He's kind of good.
It's
It's kind of good. I never had you before. He's kind of good.
Okay, we definitely should have done the eat a whole rotisserie chicken.
You keep ignoring my hot wings.
Oh yeah. I thought that was for the finals.
With the rotisserie chicken.
But first of all, who was the all-time Pistons starting 5 to you guys?
Well, at point guard, it's Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah.
So if Cade's going to get in there, that's going to be a pretty difficult entrance. I think
you could put him at the 2.
Let's do 2025 basketball. I don't necessarily got to take him over Isaiah, but you know.
Hello, Kitty.
So you got Isaiah at the 1. We're doing that shooting guard.
I mean, a shooting guard right now, it's probably got to be Joe Dumars still.
Yeah.
Especially because Joe Dumars has been literally a part of all 3 championships. So by default, I think Joey D and as a player, he was probably our best shooting guard of all time. So,
Finals MVP.
Yep. Leggy, I'm not sure if there's any arguments we have to do here. I think the small forward's pretty obvious. It's Grant Hill.
Grant Hill. Yep. 100%. If you want to talk about like a player who did a much more than what Grant did accolade-wise, you could talk about Tayshaun if you're trying to get some of that defense there. But you're talking about the guy who rivaled Michael Jordan, the guy who as a rookie was the highest vote getter for the All-Star game, and I'm pretty sure year 2 he was also the highest vote getter for the All-Star game. And people talk about how Detroit doesn't get the credit, and Detroit never has those kind of players.
Yeah,
they had him.
Yeah, Brennan, what do you think though? Like, what are some of your thoughts on our picks so far? Because you do a lot of observing with these warheads. You're not doing
how many you got left, Brennan?
Less than 10, actually. But okay, so
dude, this isn't affecting you. I'm bummed.
Well, I can't really talk. I'm watching y'all lead the segment.
Oh yeah, that's why I want you to talk. I want the torture. Let's
go. So at point guard, obviously we got Isaiah Thomas. That's why I kind of said positionless, because I think Cade will have a better chance of being like the off guard. It's gonna be hard to pass Isaiah, man. It's gonna be hard to pass him. So I would still have Joe Dumars right now. At the 3, my birthday twin, Grant Hill, of course. He could have led the NBA. Could have been the face if he didn't get hurt. So, I mean, agree with you guys so far. OK's best bet to me is replacing Joe as the off guard, even though he's the point guard, but that's his best bet. And he's not close to that yet, but he's on his way. He's working.
Credit, I could confidently say this is the best analysis on the internet with a mouthful of warheads. I can confidently say that's the best basketball segment that's ever been led with a mouthful of warheads.
Yeah, even if it was just a bag of those trolley sour gummy worms, I'd be freaking out. So I can't believe you're doing this like so easy.
I still think we got to do like the blazing wings from B-Dubs to like get spice, because that's what gets everyone. You know what I mean?
I think sorry, I don't know why I interrupted you there, Sean.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I think that's the one that we would all struggle with no matter what. The rotisserie chicken, that would just be disgusting. Like we'd just be fiends, just like eating like rotisserie chicken with our hands. What are your thoughts, Leggy? Like,
yeah, someday I think that will happen. If the Pistons win a championship, we're gonna all be just eating full-on rotisserie chickens. But how about next episode we just get blazing wings? Just start the episode with them.
Yep. Now we didn't do the
Brennan
power forward
is like, dude.
I do think you do got to do power forward and center. So power forward, I think it's Lambeer personally. Yep. If I was picking a lineup, I'd go Rashid. But I think it has to be Lambeer here, and I think Ben Wallace is the center. I think that's like Ben has to be there.
I would say Bob Lanier is another guy to look at. The pioneer.
Cool.
That's a tough one though, because he kind of reminds me of the Grant Hill talk. Because if you're looking for good job, Brennan. But if you're looking for the best player, I think you're talking about Bob Lanier. If you're looking for what am I saying? You got me off track, Brennan, damn it. But if we're talking about small forward, Grant Hill is the guy who's going to be the best player. That gives me kind of shades of Bob Lanier. But if you're talking about the accolades, what it means to be a Piston, all that stuff, I don't want to say what it means to be, because Bob Lanier was the bright spot. But you're talking about Tayshaun. I mean, at that point. You're talking about Stanley Johnson. You're talking about Jody Meeks. You're talking about Michael Beniger. So there's a lot of different names we can talk about for greatest forwards. Anyways, go on. I don't know.
That water had to have been pretty disgusting after an entire bag of Warhead.
Speaking of Stanley Johnson, I saw somebody compare him to a Sartre on Twitter.
I was gonna mention that. Yeah, it was Jam or something. I usually get with what he does. I think he's just a devil's advocate all the time. Just
miss me with all of that bullshit on the face of the planet. Like, They like if you are just going at they played defense
and
they kind of had similar hairstyles, then sure. But like if you're going off of athletes, not even a conversation.
No.
If you're going off of like pure ball skill, not even a conversation.
Rebounding.
If you're talking about playmaking, if you're talking about all these other things that just Stanley Johnson did not bring to the table. Like the only thing Stanley Johnson really had to hang his hat on is he guarded LeBron well in a sweep.
Could you say
It's
well,
like-
or could you just say decent?
Like probably the best of anyone that playoffs, but like
Yeah.
no one did it well that playoffs.
Yes.
And it's like when you say they both play defense, one plays all NBA level defense. One plays.
One was like pretty good at the time, but
Yeah.
then got mid.
Sorry
like,
if one of the two
no-
live viewers in here is that guy.
no exaggeration, no bias. Look up defensive estimated plus minus. Asar was number 3 in the whole NBA this year.
Wow.
When he's on the floor, he impacts the game at a different level. Stanley Johnson was cool on defense. Asar is way more than just cool on defense. I could believe that.
Yeah.
Couldn't believe
And
That was a
Yeah,
weird
and
thread.
Asar
I love
actually
Stanley Johnson in
impacts
high
the
school.
game, unlike
Yeah.
Stanley Johnson, who just
And
is in.
me and my boy, we used to watch Stanley Johnson high school highlights all the time. So like, I was a big fan. Everybody was like
Yep.
his high school days. But come on, man.
Yeah.
Boys, are you ready to move? Because we've been going for an hour 36. This has been the longest episode by far. Let's get on to just the round 2 pick'ems. And with these ones, we made them after day 1. Brennan,
Yep.
that burp sounded like it hurt. I'm just going to say that sounded like
It
that was
did.
absolutely
My-
painful.
Bro, my stomach hurt more than eating the candy. My stomach is hurting right
I'm sorry. Okay, so
The real punishment for this is going to be like in about 12 hours when
exactly.
it's not going to be a warhead. It's going to be a war ass, dude.
Yeah.
Good luck.
well, me and my buddy in high school,
I ate them so fast.
my buddy and I in high school, we were playing 2K, and it was whoever lost had to drink a whole one of those Mio energies, like
Oh,
servings upon servings upon servings of caffeine. He
Yeah.
hit a Jason the Jet Terry buzzer beater half court 3, and it sent me to the hospital.
Oh my god.
by the way,
yeah, it was.
smoked y'all in 2K, but that's a whole other conversation.
Oh, that's a challenge. Maybe we'll have a 2K night.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I ain't played 2K since 2K21.
I've played, boys. This is not a joke. I have owned and played every year of 2K since 2K5. That is 20 years of 2K experience under my belt.
Was that the Shaq Heat cover, or was that the year before that one? Was that 6?
That was the Ben Wallace cover in
Okay.
2K5.
Oh, Ben Wallace.
Was 6
Gotcha,
must have
gotcha.
been because then
2K6 was Shaq in Miami.
that was my first one,
Yeah.
and then I
I
had
think they actually had Shaq on there 2 years in a row.
yeah
I think,
Allen
I
Iverson-
think they did multiple years of Shaq.
yeah. Brennan, when was the
Allen
Iverson?
Iverson
one?
had about 3 of them.
Right off the bat, I'm pretty sure off rip.
Yeah. Yeah, AI was that guy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I used to love playing 2K, man. I kind of stopped playing video games, to be honest. So that's more so what it is. I just kind of stopped playing the game.
nerd.
I
Yeah.
think the person who probably has the most covers, by the way, other than because it's probably it's got to be it's Jordan, it's Kobe, Allen Iverson. He was on the cover 4 years in a row from 2K.
Yeah, 4. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Yeah, I think
weird
he
that
might-
they went with one player.
He was that guy.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to be AI.
That
Y'all
is
see the
true.
influence when the little boy with the braids and the sleeve on? Yeah, everybody wanted to be AI, man.
Wasn't he the shorts
He's
too?
that
Didn't he
dude.
popularize the baggy?
Oh, yup. Well, kind of the Fat Five did that.
Yeah.
Fat Five kind of popularized the baggy shorts.
so I didn't
I think-
realize,
I think-
by the way, because and not to keep prolonging this
No,
episode.
that's
I'm
fine.
sorry. I'm looking and they have all like all the international cover athletes
Yes!
on here too.
Fournier.
Guys,
one?
did you know that not only was Danilo Gallinari a 2K cover athlete at one point, he was on the 2K17 Italian cover.
Yeah.
Dennis Schroeder is a 2K
16?
cover athlete. 2K16
Hey.
was the German cover athlete of 2K16.
Yeah.
Can you
That's dope.
imagine
Shout out
going to
Dennis.
pick up a copy of 2K and Dennis Schroeder's on the cover? Not to disrespect Dennis, because he's a great player.
Yeah.
But man, would that be underwhelming.
Yeah. But like,
Better
think
come with a
about it though.
poster,
That's the
too.
hero because
Yeah.
because Killian, when the Pistons went to France, they said he was like a superstar. He was the most famous person. Like people thought like, yeah, that's just crazy to think about. Like, I'm tired, guys.
Makes
I don't
sense,
even know
though.
where I'm going with this.
Yeah, let's
No,
start wrapping this up. I'm sorry.
No.
I thought that was interesting.
That's fine. But round 2
Makes sense.
pick'ems. Okay. Brennan, what did you got? What did you have? Let me
So-
speak proper English here.
Yeah, I had Cleveland in 7. I don't feel good about that. I had Boston in 5. I had OKC in 6, and I had Minnesota in 6. I feel confident about the 2 Western Conference matchups, but the East, obviously, I
Yeah.
do not feel good about the Boston pick whatsoever. Tatum just has to wake up. It's a little bit more than that, but Tatum is the main reason why they're losing. If Tatum plays regular, they don't blow 2 20-point leagues. So if Tatum wakes up, they got a shot, but they're going to New York, and that crowd is going to be insane. So I don't feel good about either Eastern Conference picks. I know Cleveland won today with all their guys back, but I think Indiana can win in Indiana the next game. It's in Indiana. They're already up 2-1. I think they can get them. So I don't feel good about that pick either.
Yeah, Sean, we were pretty similar here.
Yeah, I in the Eastern Conference side, I had Pacers in 6, and I had Celtics in 5. Obviously, the Celtics one can't happen in 5 anymore. I still feel, I feel more confident, and I know this might sound twisted. I feel more confident about the Celtics winning their series than I do the Pacers winning theirs, because I think now that Cleveland has their guys back and healthy, and had their guys kind of. Like even in the broadcast, they talked about how Kenny Atkinson was calm because he really loved the process and the way in which those guys played the first 2 games. In the last 2 games, Donovan Mitchell has 91 points. Last 2 games, 91 points. So, Cleveland, if they didn't have a freak buzzer beater to Tyrese Halliburton and one of the craziest endings to a playoff game we've ever seen, they'd be up 2-1 right now. So I feel pretty good about them. Boston, if they didn't have 2 freak 20-point deficits given up, they'd be up 2-0 as well.
Yep.
I think they remind people who they are when they go to New York. No disrespect to the Knicks, but they've been outplayed largely all of that series, which is why it's so weird that they're up 2-0. And then on the West side, I have Thunder in 5. I have Wolves in 6. I think the Thunder one is a very similar thing to Cleveland and Boston, where it's like if they just take care of business, they have no business losing that series. And the Wolves, I think I feel this is probably my my other lock of the second round right now, just because of the Curry injury. But even before that, I thought it was a similar conundrum for the Warriors that it was to the Lakers, where you're dealing with a lot of size and, it's just not a great matchup. Like, yes, they have Draymond, who can play bigger than anyone on the Lakers, but I just think this is a really bad matchup for the Timberwolves. Oh yeah, and you have the emotional charged energy of Jimmy Butler in Minnesota. And that just doesn't really bode well, in my opinion, for Golden State.
Yeah, I don't remember my picks, guys.
You had so for your picks, you had Pacers and Celtics on the East side,
Okay.
and then on the West side, and this is where you, my friend, might be in some trouble, because you had the Thunder, but then you picked the Warriors.
Okay, yeah, that's
So, Leggy, do you have a B-dubs up by you?
I do.
Okay. I'd just maybe start calling about their prices for their Blazing Wings.
Oh, I thought it was all of us. Yeah, so that's
all of us.
yeah. I don't know, man. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what.
I had my warheads earlier. Don't worry, I did that. I totally did that before all this.
Yeah, man, I believe you. I
Yeah.
believe you.
But like, I think if we're looking at all those series, I mean, I'm not sure about you guys, but pretty much any of these can go any way right now. But
Yeah.
I feel a lot more confident on where the West is going to end up than where the East is going to end up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly, I would kind of be surprised if Denver or the Warriors won. Not gonna lie. Even though I'm not too confident in my Boston pick, I do agree 100% that Boston has outplayed the Knicks in the first two games. And if Tatum shows up, like I've been saying all week to my homies, if Tatum shows up, they can do what they got to do.
Yeah.
OG and
If they
McHale are
win
great
4 straight,
defenders,
would we be
but
shocked?
better team. It's the better team, you know. Like I love OG and McHale, but there's no way Tatum should have 13 points in a playoff game. That's himself. Like they are not shut you down like that. You just got to tighten up and play good basketball, man.
Yeah, and
Oh yeah.
something interesting going on right now in basketball. Nuggets versus Thunder. Thunder up 42-39. Michael Porter has 13, 5 of 5 from the field, 3 of 3 from 3. And Jokic and Murray Murray's having a decent night, 7 points, 3 of 6, but Jokic 1 for 6 with 5 points. So they're they're only down by 3 points, and Jokic isn't having a good game. So if the Nuggets can take this game, I think that really puts it in their favor here, especially because Jokic isn't playing well. But you're talking about a well-oiled Thunder machine that just need to get past the humps, and everyone is going to take what is known. And if Denver kind of takes the lead, everyone's going to say, oh, that's an easy wrap. But the Thunder are the better team. They just kind of need to take it by the balls and do it.
That's the better team, yeah. Definitely.
Take them by the balls, indeed.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, man.
I mean, it's going to be a banger of a playoffs, but
Yes.
boys, this is a fun episode.
Yeah,
This is
I had a
good one.
great time.
Brennan, post punishment, how are you feeling?
30 minutes from now, it might be a little worse, but right now I'm okay. But my stomach is rumbling and tumbling down there, man.
Yeah,
So,
we need a Brennan live vlog update. I don't know.
oh, you don't want to? You don't want it live. You do not. You do not want to see that live.
We don't want to live feed in the toilet.
Yeah. Yeah, last week we talked about Asar being Murr, and I also mentioned a punishment of like Brennan being on the toilet for a whole episode. I don't know how we got there, but that's like coming reality.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, bro. It was good, but I ate them too fast.
You really
That's
took
the main
eating it
thing.
all in one segment to heart.
Bro,
Yeah.
for real.
But boys, this was a fun night, an hour 47, and what we're going to be doing if people are listening to this point now, listening to this point later, I'm going to be breaking up these segments and posting them separately as videos, so you can go back and find the ones you'd want to watch as well. Any support in terms of like, sharing, subscribing, following all of us on X, following all of us on YouTube. I'll make sure to put all the description or all of the info in the descriptions for you guys to watch. But again, thank you guys for joining us on this 313 Connect journey, and it's only getting better from here. We'll talk to you all soon. Peace out.
Peace.